Hey everybody, my name's Chuck and today I'm going to go explore Mountain Pine, Arkansas. So here we are in the town of Mountain Pine, Arkansas. Mountain Pine, Arkansas is a very tiny town that's northwest of Hot Springs. It's situated in the Ouachita Forest. And there's a very specific reason that it's situated in the Ouachita Forest. It's because it was a lumber town. Specifically, the Dierks Lumber and I want to say Coal Company in the late 1920s established this town completely from scratch in order to try to take advantage of the fact that there was a lot of virgin lumber in this area. This town was non-existent. Obviously, a railroad was made to it at some point, but the lumber mill was established. 150 houses were established. A school, a church, all sorts of stuff was established specifically to fit the industry in the area. And right now we're sitting in front of the site of the old mill. I'm going to walk around a little bit and see if I can't check out some of the foundations. There's no buildings left. It was a pretty big shock to the community whenever Weyerhauser decided to leave. Weyerhauser actually bought this facility from the Dierks Lumber Company in 1969. As you can imagine, with the entire industry of this town being predicated upon operating a lumber mill and trying to cut down trees in the area, the lumber industry in general, it kind of killed the community whenever this happened. Interestingly enough, though, in the past 6 or 7 years, the town has started to become known as a kind of a center for the window industry. Morfe Windows was established in 2019. Now it's Morfe Windows / Wind Choice, and that has filled in a little bit of a hole that allows people in the area to actually find a job and not have to commute to Hot Springs proper. There are big old pieces of concrete left over all over the place. There's a road here. It must have been one of the roads that went for the outskirts of the actual lumber mill. So the history of Mountain Pine is that in the late 1920s, the Dierks Lumber Company established effectively what was a company-run town. They built all of the facilities, all of the houses necessary. They built all of the rent houses. They built a commissary. They had a school, a church, and they even had a company doctor that made it so that people could live completely enclosed in this town so that they could run industry. The lumber industry is so hugely prevalent in Arkansas. I can name, just in my local area, 7 or 8 different towns that exist or have existed because of the lumber industry. When Weyerhauser decided to move out of this place, I was just getting out of high school, so I never really had an opportunity to come to Mountain Pine and to see the Weyerhauser facility before it was kind of tore down. Some big old pipes over here. I'm not even sure what that is over there. It almost looks like a turbine. There's just piles and piles and piles of concrete and asphalt and things that are dug up and big old pieces of metal all over the place. I would have loved to have the ability to see this when it was fresh and at least operational. Obviously this is some sort of stack, or I'm not sure. It maybe was a smokestack or something similar. You can see the rebar in the ground that supported it. And over here we have the foundation for a building that goes all the way around. One thing about Weyerhauser taking this place over whenever Dierks Lumber Company sold all of the assets and got out of the business is that they sold the rent houses to the people that were living in them. Because Weyerhauser didn't want to have that old-fashioned we own everything company vibe. They kind of wanted to become less involved in the community. So that caused a lot of things to happen. Obviously, everybody buys the houses. Weyerhauser gets out from under that property. But then also, a school is built outside the limits of the company's property. So now we have Mountain Pine School District, which isn't at all associated with any sort of company or anything. It's actually just a public school. Oh, here's a crossroad. You can see the road goes all that way. Probably does a big loop. And there are more foundations for buildings over in the middle of that field. And what appears to be perhaps, sure, like a retaining wall over there. I'll have to go take a look. That was something that I had noticed over time, especially as I was growing up as a young adult, that the lumber industries really seem to just die off in the South. I know that a lot of the lumber industries that exist now are in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, Canada, and I have a feeling it must be because they have either more virgin timber or they grow the kind of trees necessary to really make it like profitable to harvest lumber. There's some more of the big concrete slabs left over. And you can tell that they've been working on this recently because here are the tracks from a bulldozer or something. And off in the distance I can see some heavy equipment. Just kind of see all throughout the field where there would have been like various lanes possibly between buildings where they had concrete and asphalt laid down. And off in the distance I can see a bridge. I'm going to try to get over to that bridge and film it. If I'm not mistaken, at the time when this was really active, they were employing several hundred people. And it must have been a really major decision to shut this place down. Here's this retaining wall that I was talking about. And you can see all of the rebar that was used to make it structural. There was some sort of big pole over here that the foundation of it had been ripped out of the ground. There's another foundation to buildings back behind this. And then there's just tons and tons of concrete piled up in a big pile over there. Ooh, this must have been a waterway or something because you could see how there was concrete poured over the rebar and it kind of like had a bridge or something. There's another road you can see off in the distance. Makes me wonder if this perhaps wasn't a parking lot and up here wasn't perhaps, or was perhaps the offices for the place. I would have to have somebody that knows more about the place confirm the layout. I really don't know how this place is laid out. But I would imagine a lot of the facility was over there based on the foundations. And this looks more like it would have been an area for offices or perhaps, I don't know, like parking. And then there's a main road that goes all the way out on the back side. Here's a little video of the bridge from a better angle. Here's some more concrete pieces. Can't tell what it would have been for. I don't know what any of this would have been for.
I know nothing. Nothing.
You can see how that road just completely goes off to that building over there. And then we still have more and more and more concrete with more and more and more foundations. This looks like it might have been the road that came in and out. But some of these definitely appear more like parking lots as opposed to actual or where actual buildings would have been. This almost looks like it would have been a footpath, but I don't know that for certain. Here's some more foundations. Some sort of metal attached to this. It's got what looks like a wire coming out of it, so I don't know. Yeah, a wire and a pipe. Huh, I don't know what that would have been for either. More pieces of metal. And here would have been a pass-through for a culvert. You can imagine with this thing being almost 100 years old that there had to have been like the original buildings made, and then there had to have been improvements, and then improvements upon the improvements, and then improvements upon those improvements.
Another one. Another one. Another one. Another one.
Because the mill didn't start off as just like the modern thing that it was, you know. I say modern, maybe it would have been modern 30 or 40 years ago. So there's probably ruins on top of ruins here. I have no idea what this would have been for, but the concrete's very, very worn. And it's got a couple of like pits, like something pulled up to it, like a vehicle. I'm not sure. Some sort of a canal or something built. I'm not sure what exactly is going on with that. Well, at some point somebody was getting mail here. I don't know if this is for the company that's doing all the tearing the stuff up and reclaiming the concrete, or I don't know what exactly. I know it's got a lot of mud on it. But this looks like a relatively new barrel. And here we have where some of the railway would have came into the plant. So nowadays, whenever you look at this community, you look at a town that's got no more than 600 people. There are some smaller houses, 2 and 3 bedroom houses, but this is not what you would call a rich community. But we're going to take a look at some of that, and we'll see if we can find anything particularly interesting. A town doesn't have to have a bunch of rich people in order to be interesting. Just like any typically southern town, you've got your church. So the building I'm zooming in on here would have been the Dierks Lumber Company office. I did manage to get a really good video of it, but here's a picture. It's on the National Register of Historic Places. There's a lot of old houses, though. It makes me wonder if some of these houses are as old as the town is. It's interesting because, you know, I think of 100 years as old. In Europe, there are towns that are 700-800 years old, 1,000 years old, 1,500 years old. And they have buildings that are still being used to this day that are that old. The fact that you can see these buildings still being made of the same materials and in roughly the same style that we're making modern buildings, it just kind of indicates to you that this isn't nearly as old as some places in the world, but it feels old. Well, I'm not going to bother going into the plant specifically because while I don't mind walking through a random open field, you know, where like concrete and stuff used to be, I don't necessarily like the idea of walking up to a business where there's probably security cameras and people present. One of the things you kind of notice through town is that it's laid out in a really grid-like pattern, especially like if you look at it from Google Maps. It definitely looks like a pre-planned town. Very flat as well. Like, I'm not sure how much work they had to do to get this like to be board flat, but it's interesting to kind of drive around the neighborhood. I think next I'm going to go up to the dam and around that area. There's a lot of cool stuff to see up there. So here we are sitting next to the water at what is the base of Blakely Dam. Blakely Dam is the dam that makes Lake Ouachita possible. And if you look up there, man, that dam is pretty tall. And then they have a pass-through where you can do electric generation. They've got all sorts of like, I don't know, electrical power lines and stuff like that humming in the distance. There's a big smokestack. It's a really nice spot to sit and soak in some sun, maybe get some fishing done. I don't necessarily know if there's a place to swim, maybe across on the other side, but we'll have to check that in a second. Now over here, they've got this really long, like, I don't know that you'd call it a gazebo. It's like just some sort of covering, but it's made out of big, like, hewn logs, and there's a fireplace at the end of it, so I guess if you really wanted to warm up on a cold day, you could. Ooh, there's a big old wasp nest up there. That's scary. I'll just try to avoid those. This is interesting. I mean, I don't know how much good that fireplace would do with it being open like this, but there's a place for the kids to play over there. And if you wanted to have a really big party, I suppose that you could do it here. There's tons and tons of benches. This is such a weird way to handle this. I don't know. That's just a strange design choice to have a fireplace there. Oh, and on the back, it's got a couple of grills as well. I don't know. I find that strange. It also looks like if you wanted to rent a camper spot, you could pull your camper down here, RV, and sit and relax. Nice to have kind of that peeking view of the northern part of Lake Hamilton. As I've said once, and I'll say it again, if you're an outdoor enthusiast in Arkansas, even small little places like this have something interesting for everybody to enjoy. So here we are, we've arrived at Blakely Dam. Specifically, we're on top of Blakely Dam because they have a nice scenic drive that leads over it. Man, it's a heck of a view. This dam in particular is not like a concrete dam. This is an actual like dirt and rock dam. Effectively what it does is it sits up here between two mountains. I guess it's technically Blakely Mountain. The view from up here is spectacular. It's pretty incredible. You can see both sides. You can see down to Lake Washita, and you look where the Washita River comes out and starts forming Lake Hamilton again. All these scenic vistas that Arkansas has to offer, they're pretty spectacular. The planning for this dam was started in 1940 something. I know that between 48 and 52 they were actually working on completing the dam. And then in 1955 the power plant for the dam came online. But they'd been wanting to do this project since the late 1800s. Like I want to say 1870s, because they knew that this area had issues of flooding, and that's one of the primary reasons that this dam exists, is for flood control in the area. You got to realize the Washita River was a giant valley that went all the way from Mount Ida and even further, all the way down to Sparkman and beyond. It travels an extremely long distance. Man, the view. I'm going to go ahead and try to film some of this, but I don't know that the GoPro is going to do it justice. It is in September, but we're still having pretty hot weather. I mean, it's probably going to be, I don't know, in the 90s today. I really can't imagine the undertaking this would have been. This is just a huge engineering marvel when you think about it. It's got to be strong enough to stop all of the flood waters, just all the waters in general of Lake Washita. Based on how far up the water line is, I'm assuming that where I'm standing right now would be completely underwater. The water line, the debris line, all that stuff looks like it would probably be about 10 feet up. That does give you an opportunity to try to explore the beaches a little bit. You might find something interesting. You might find some shells. You might find some treasure. You never know.
There be treasure!
This is the Washita River after all. It'd be pretty neat and interesting to find some sort of Native American artifacts, wouldn't it? The water line would be up there, And then this is all the exposed area. But it doesn't look like the water lines up there all the time because you've got some plants that would otherwise be submerged in water. I don't think that's always the case either. There's probably a happy medium where the water sits most of the time. I also want to try to get a better view of that power generation tower over there that serves as the high side of the power generation plant. We've got a little informational thing over here like they do over all the other areas, and it's nice to get a little bit of shade on this hot day. Well, this is about as close as I can get before it becomes illegal to be there, but still, it's incredible. Again, the engineering that goes into this kind of stuff. Looks like we're coming up on the boat ramp now on the other side, and I think this is part of the Avery recreational area. So it looks like since the last time I've been here, they made this decking so you can look out over this kind of like super still water area that's up behind the boat ramp. Boy, it looks mucky. If you actually wanted to let a boat out this high on Lake Hamilton right under the dam, this is where you would do it. Look behind me, you can see the boat ramp. This right here would be the clearing where the Lovett Trail would go, I believe. Let's take a look at that. The Lovett Trail is a trail that's often ran by like ultra runners and stuff like that, and they do all sorts of really long ultra marathons here. And it's cool that they actually have it like posted out with a big old like wooden, I don't know, like entrance. But I don't know that I'm equipped necessarily to do a whole hell of a lot of it right now. But it's a rugged trail. Like, if you're going to get involved in it, you need to be like really prepared. Here we are at the actual Avery recreational area. This is down by the water. And it sits right in front of the hydroelectric power plant on Blakely Dam. And from this angle, you can actually see the spillway where the water comes directly out. Obviously, they have a bit of a buoy line to keep you from swimming up next to the hydroelectric dam. Don't want anything bad to happen to you. They even have a walkway over here where you can get a little bit closer to the spillway to see how high the water is, to take a little bit of a closer look at the hydroelectric stuff. Honestly, when you're walking up to it and you hear the hum of the electricity going through the various wires and transformers and everything else up there, it's a little frightening. Makes you wonder if like you're gonna suffer some sort of problems. Oh, look at this. You can see goose poop all over the place. Thing is, they have this sidewalk going all the way up basically to the facility. I wonder if you're supposed to be up here. I don't know. Whew. Whew, that's a lot of hardware. What the heck? Every time I go somewhere, it's closed today. This is the weekend. Like, why would you not get to swim on the weekend? There are a few picnic tables, and I could probably walk around. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to do that. I'm just going to walk down through there. Let's walk down through here and see what we can find out. There's a little bit of like a burn pit here, so you could all sit around and enjoy a fire. like a tree stump in there that hasn't been burned. Look at that. Looks like it hasn't been used in, I don't know, months, years. This is kind of pitiful when you think about it. I mean, you can tell where the camping sites are at. You can see all the picnic tables and all the little spots to pitch a tent. Man, it just has not been maintained in any sort of reasonable way. It's like, what's the point of having all these rec areas if you're just going to let them fall into absolute disrepair? Like, these are some of our greatest resources. The ability to get out and enjoy nature should be like one of the most essential components of Americana. Teddy Roosevelt would be rolling over in his grave. Teddy would be like, what the hell is going on? What have you done to the America that I love? Keep in mind, the dude is on Mount Rushmore, so his opinion is actually fairly valid. You see this whole green area here? This is where the water level will rise to when it's extremely flooded. And then off in the distance is the marina. Not really anything preventing me from walking over to the rec area and looking around. Low lake water has a particular smell. And if you're around lakes a lot, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and I love that smell. Again, look at the state of disrepair. Like, they're all trashy. There's a, looks like maybe a, I can't tell, a gum wrapper. No, that's a cigarette pack. I can tell, that's a cool cigarette pack. What the heck is this? Kaz's grill? Like a cardboard bamboo grill? Here's some of the camping areas where, like, you have a little covering. They don't look like they're in quite as bad shape, but still, why is it closed? This is the day use area. I don't get it. Being around water is one of those things that is just, it's irreplaceable. You cannot do anything else that makes you nostalgic for being like around the water than just being around the water. Like, it makes me want to learn knots, and it makes me want to learn how to operate a sailboat. It makes me want to fish, and it makes me want to, I don't know, sing sea shanties. It makes me want to be a pirate.
Now, bring me that horizon.
Cool thing is, I can read both sides of this because I am fluent in Spanish. I've been meaning to do it. I am going to film some videos completely in Spanish, and I might even revisit areas that I've been before, just because I think it would be worthwhile to do. So maybe my next video will be completely in Spanish, and it'll alienate all the people that speak English on my channel. Makes me wonder now, I'm looking at it, that I'm on the beach, if the swim area is closed because the water is so low. Like the depth gauges, they're completely uncovered by water. I mean, the thing goes all the way up to 12 feet, and it's like -1 feet. I feel like this has been a particularly wet summer, and fairly mild except for August. August was fairly brutal. So I'm kind of confused on this one. You might not even really be able to get some of these boats out of here now that I look at it, because the water is down about 10 or 12 feet. You might be able to see over there that the water is extremely low. The water level would be much higher, and the dock is kind of like flat over there. But dude, I love seeing all these boats. It's really cool. Well, you know what they say about boats, though. They're kind of a rich person hobby. My friend used to always say, a boat means bust out another 1,000. I think they're right about that. They're fairly high maintenance. But maybe someday in my lifetime I'll have a little sailboat with an outboard. Sail around. Pretend I'm a pirate. Yarg. Well, folks, this is about all I had time to explore. There were some things that I wanted to see that I didn't get to see. That's just the nature of exploring, and sometimes things just don't work out in your favor. If you like this kind of content, let me know. If you have any ideas for videos you'd like to see me make, outdoor, exploring urban areas, I don't really care. I love doing all of it. If you want to see me explore another topic, please feel free to let me know in the comments. I have all these ideas for videos, but I can always use more, because every weekend I got to be doing something. Anyways, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, feel free to subscribe to the channel.